Hi there. Today I wanted to show you some things about Apache that will hopefully help you answer some questions from customers when it comes to setting up or problems with pointing domains at IPs without having set up add-on domains. Same with subdomains. Maybe somebody says, my SSL goes to somebody else's website. Why? How do you fix that? Well, I'm going to show you how. For some preliminary information, remember that DNS points a domain to an IP address. So we're going to take that for granted today, and we're not going to cover how that works. It doesn't really matter for this. But basically, what you need to know is that when you go to a website, your computer makes a DNS request, gets an IP, and then your browser contacts that IP address and makes a request. And when it makes that request, it includes because there could be lots and lots of domains hosted on or websites hosted on an IP address. So Apache differentiates it by looking at the HTTP header, which is that request that comes from the browser. So the browser says, "I want this domain. Please give me the information for this domain name." And Apache knows what to do. And this is how. You'll notice that I've got Notepad open here, Notepad++, and you'll notice that there's a virtual host here. This is Apache's configuration file, httpd.conf, and on a server with 1,000 websites, there'll be 1,000 entries that are similar to this. They're generally a lot longer, but I've simplified it for the sake of this discussion. You'll notice it says virtual host, and then it has an IP address, and then it has a port number. So in this case, virtual host, and this is my IP from my website, 149.56.110.150, port 80. Port 80 is where HTTP requests get made. You'll notice down here, here's one for the same IP address, but it's port 443. That's where SSL certificates get made. Or, I'm sorry, SSL requests get made. So if you just type in HTTP and then a domain name and hit enter in your browser, it opens a request on port 80 to Apache, and Apache uses this to answer it. If you type in HTTPS, it makes a request on port 443 instead, and Apache uses this to answer it. So that's an important distinction that we're going to come back to in a minute. So I've got miss.geek.com, that's my website. So when I type in miss.geek.com, it opens a web request, rather a request on port 80 to Apache on this IP, and Apache looks at document root, and it says, okay, what am I going to serve? And so it says /home miss.geek /public HTML, public_HTML, and then it says, what am I going to serve? And here's a list in descending order of importance or of loading which file it's going to load first: index.html, HTML, PHP, and so on. And so if there's an index.html that says website coming soon, and the customer is all excited because they just installed WordPress, and all of a sudden WordPress won't load because WordPress uses index.php, but on my server here, index.html gets loaded first. So the solution is to rename or remove index.html to something else. And then it'll look for index.htm, and when it doesn't find that, it'll finally load index.php. You could also edit the configuration to load index.php first, and that's often how it's done, but we can't change that on shared servers. And you don't really want to. It's not something that comes up too often. Now, let's say I got miss.geek.net, and this is, by the way, let's pretend that these three things here that you see, these three virtual hosts, are the only three on the server. Now let's say I got miss.geek.net and I want to point it to miss.geek.com. So I can, let's say I bought it at a registrar, let's say GoDaddy or something, where I can just say I want to point this website to this IP address. Well, what's going to happen? My browser is going to make a request for miss.geek.net. It's going to go to this IP address because that's what I set DNS to, but it's going to get lost because it knows the IP, but there's 3 sites on that IP. So what does it do? Well, it's going to default to the first website hosted, and that happens to be miss.geek.com. But what if I wanted to get tidbits for text.net? Well, it's going to go to miss.geek.com too. If I had, Ryan's Foobar website.net and I tried to point it at the IP, it's going to default to miss.geek.com. They're all going to default there unless there is an entry for it. So if I made another entry and called it Ryan's can't type foobarwebsite.com. And by the way, here's the server alias. That's how you get the www in there. And if you have webmail and other things, you can put that there too. And it points it at miss.geek website, so that would come up. That would work. And in cPanel, you'd have to create an add-on domain, or a forwarding domain, or part domain, or however you're going to do it. Now, 443 SSL. Now, you'll notice that I have this SSL virtual host is for tidbitsfortext.com. Now, if I type in https tidbitsfortext.com, it's going to take me here, and it knows which website to go to because I told it to. But if I type in https miss.geek.com, there's no 443 in here, right? There's no virtual host entry. So what's it going to do? It's going to do the same thing it would do previously. It's going to default to the first SSL virtual host in http.conf. And sorry, this isn't the first SSL. I mislabeled that. This is the first SSL virtual host. Okay, so it's going to default to the first thing on port 443. So if I use https miss.geek.com, it's going to go to 443, and the first thing here is tidbitsfortext.com. Now that happens to be my real life configuration, so let's try it. Let's ignore all this garbage and do https miss.geek.com. Now it says there's a certificate problem. Why? Well, it's loading the certificate for another website. It does not match the domain name. We're going to continue. Okay, and it loaded to Ryan's Tech Tidbits. This is not miss.geek.com. This is tidbitsfortext.com. Furthermore, the CSS is screwed up because it's trying to load it from a domain that doesn't exist. It can't load it. So the way to fix this is really simple. We have to add an entry for port 443 for miss.geek.com. So I could, in my little play world here, copy that and add 443, and then there would also be some stuff in here about certificates and in the configuration, but we're just skipping that complexity for now. And then that site would load. Next time I have to restart Apache, save that file, restart Apache to reload the configuration, and next time I went to miss.geek.com over HTTPS, this is what would load. So in cPanel, you would do that by going to WHM and installing a certificate, or even enabling auto SSL, which gives the customer a Let's Encrypt certificate. And that creates the needed entries in httpd.conf, and that means their site will load when they type in HTTPS. And so I hope that clears things up, makes things a little simpler for you. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me directly, and I'll be glad to help you.